Hey there YouTube, welcome back to another black powder update. As you can see, I have finished my French battery of 12 pounders, my second battery of 12 pounders for my French. I didn't really have any problems. The only problem I did have, which was pretty minor really, was that my Foundry cannon was missing a little bronze pole, which you're supposed to use as an axle. Now, theoretically, I could have just, went ahead and used a piece of spear or something like that to make my own actual pole. But I thought when I first saw it was missing that it was like a specialised piece. So I basically rang Foundry and asked them, and they said, "Oh, it's meant to be like a little, just use like a brass spear or something like that, and we'll send you one if you want." And I said, "Yeah, that's very kind of you, thank you." So literally the next day, in comes this massively oversized box, and I thought, wow, this is like a giant box with just a few, for basically just a bronze spear piece. So inside this box was 4 little spears, and another free figure, which actually turns out to be Napoleonic British this time. So I was very chuffed about that. I actually forgot to show that in my original Foundry order I actually got a free Civil War guy, and I got to admit that whenever you order from Foundry you tend to get a free figure of some sort. I think way back when I ordered some Roman figures, for Gangs of Rome, they sent me a free figure of that order as well, which was some sort of African tribesman with a spear and shield. Anyway, back to the point. Obviously you can see the battery in front of you. I'll give you a closer look. The premise of this sort of battery is that they've set up on the edge of like a cornfield. So alas, the row of corn in front of you, in front of the cannon. And obviously one cannon is Victrix, which is this one here. Now I actually went for a different style of putting the blue on these guys this time, because I noticed that the Artillery Crew blue is a lot darker than the infantry, or at least it looks that way. I mean, if I show you the picture on the front of the my artillery book, for instance, where are we? Here we go. You can see that it's actually like it's a very, very dark blue, a lot more so than French infantry. So what I did this time was that I always use Prussian blue for my French uniforms, and this time I mixed it in with some. Now what's the colour? Let me just grab the pot. Hold on. Where are you? My cat has decided to cause chaos on my painting desk again. Here we go, I found it. So this is the colour that I was mixing in with my Prussian blue to make a darker blue. It's dark sea blue, and it comes out a treat. It really does. It makes a really nice dark blue. So let's show you the cannon here. So I used my French tank. Is it Tank Commander green from Vallejo Panzer Aces for the colour, which is supposed to be pretty close to what their colour was. And I also read that in my little artillery book here that some French cannons had their metalwork painted black. So on these two cannons I decided to do that for a little bit of a change. And of course the bronze cannon itself. I do like the fact that the Victrix put the little marks on the cannon, which is pretty cool. And I do like the little bits of chain that they have. Of course, the only thing that's slightly lacking is I'm not a particular fan of the actual artillery crew themselves. Obviously they went together really easy this time just because of experience of doing them before. We have this guy here, one of the assistants. He basically would help move the cannon and also assist the sponger. So I've basically given him a different tool for cleaning up the barrel and a bucket of water. And over here we have the sponger and of course the guy who pounds in the rams in the cannon ball. And of course, going around there we have this obviously this cannon's actually ready to fire, which is I think it's my first cannon, or at least out of my 12-pounders that's ready to fire. I think my last one was getting ready to fire. This one's actually ready to fire. It's actually the actual 12-pounders themselves actually had 8 crew, so it's a little bit lacking with 4, but obviously it's just a game piece, so it doesn't make too much difference. And then this guy here at the back, he is meant to be like the number 1, who is like the corporal in charge of actually ordering the cannon to fire, and also in charge of actually aiming the cannon. So he basically would operate the various screws to elevate or lower the cannon, and he'd also operate the 2 bars that would go into the back of here, and actually if he needs to move the back of the cannon to do that as well. And then of course the cannon, if it needs to be moved by the wheels, then there's actually like 2 sort of crowbars that help move the cannon wheels if they need to swing it. So that's the first Victrix cannon. The crew painted up pretty well. Obviously these guys are in slightly older uniforms because of the actual artillery set, because it's like 1804 to 1812 I think is the actual sort of date range of this particular set. But of course they are good for 12-pounders because they obviously do include them. So that is the Victrix cannon, which is pretty good. Obviously there's not too much you can show with a cannon crew really, but I'm pretty chuffed with them. And it's a good use of my Victrix cannon to make another battery. So that's that one out of the way, and now we'll go on to my Foundry cannon. Very happy with this model. It's a great cannon. Try and get you sort of a closer in shot of it. It's got nice texture. It went together really easy. I did find out where that little missing piece went. It's basically, it goes underneath the cannon barrel there, and forms part of the back screw to help elevate it. Looks pretty menacing when you're looking down the barrel. And again, I went for that sort of the black painted metal barring or rimming on the tyres and on the actual cannon itself. And this time it's not quite so muddy as my first battery. And then of course the crew were a real joy to paint actually. Of course these are a late crew, which is really good. And of course you actually get an extra member to add to the crew as well. So on this particular cannon we have the number 1. So this is the corporal that's in charge of aiming and firing the cannon. Then we have the sponger and the loader. We have his assistant over here, and we have the match guy with the matches, and he's got like an extra length of like priming cord wrapped over his shoulder, which is quite cool, and so is the corporal as well actually. And then finally the extra crew member being this guy here. Now he's in charge of blocking the hole when reloading so that the charge doesn't go off, and also for pricking and priming the ignition port of the cannon. And if you look on his front, I don't think, you might not be able to make it out, but he's actually got his priming pin in the special little front pouch that they would have to actually carry the primers and the priming rod, or the sort of thing that would actually pierce the powder bag. And also obviously the guy with the torch has actually got his particular special little pouch as well on his front, which is kind of cool. And obviously the Victrix guy's actually got that as well. And then finally, over in the corner here, we have the officer. This is the Foundry officer, because of course I only put one officer on a battery. So this is a really nice officer figure. He's kind of standing there, ready to relay the order to the corporal to fire. And he's pretty basic position really, but it's kind of what's needed really. It's just standing there really, because that's more or less all he's doing. Really nice crew these. I really do like them. And of course, some of the extra tools that you got. You got the bucket there. Oh, here comes my cat. Straight across, causing chaos as usual. Bobo, be careful. Luckily, she didn't. Luckily, it's a battery cannon, not a battalion of troops, because I'm sure they would have been going everywhere. Yes, going back to these guys. Really happy with them. And a beautiful model. And I think I've got an extra sponge, which I'm going to stick on separately in a second. I was basically waiting for the grass to dry, and I'll stick that on somewhere. And of course, he is actually holding one of the sort of crowbars for helping to move the cannon. But I put his bucket down there, and I'll put the sponge down there as well, because obviously one of his jobs was to assist the sponger. So yeah, that's the. I also put the extra little pile of cannonballs and the keg of powder there as well, next to the box of ammo, just to make a little bit more, make the scene a little bit more cool. So that is the 12-pounder battery, and gives my French some considerable firepower over the British, because the French have now got a battery of 6-pounders, a battery of howitzers, and 2 batteries of 12-pounders. But also, I still haven't sorted them out, as in what I'm actually going to do with my artillery yet. Whether to assign them to divisions, or brigades, sorry, or keep them as a separate unit. Now I know my 3rd Cavalry Division have attached artillery, and I know it's foot artillery. And if I could just grab my Waterloo book, I'll just double check. So there's a possibility that I might add a couple, the 2 batteries of 12-pounders to those, because I think it could possibly be in that particular brigade. Let's just check. No, they're not actually. It does have an artillery company attached, but they're 6-pounders and howitzers, so they won't be added. However, I know that 3rd Corps does actually have some 12-pounders in one of their divisions. Probably it could well be I think it could possibly be the actual artillery, because they do have an artillery. Little artillery brigade of 2 batteries, and I think those 2 batteries could be 12-pounders. So yeah, so that's probably what's going to happen to those guys when I eventually get around to it. But for now, I'll probably just put all the artillery into 1 battery. The other thing I did actually was I repainted my on foot brigade commander, and I've basically turned him into an artillery brigade commander now, so he is actually now officially the brigade commander for my artillery. So he is like the colonel of the the colonel or the lieutenant colonel, probably even major, because artillery brigades weren't generally commanded by uber high ranked officers. They were generally you do actually get them commanded by captains in some circumstances. But as far as like game rules go, this guy is the brigade commander for artillery, and that's his job for now. So I was pretty chuffed with that simple repaint. I basically used basically the only difference was that I basically covered up the white on his jacket, and that was more or less it really. There's actually no other difference. And obviously this guy is supposed to be a colonel because of his two full bullion epaulets. So yeah, I'll probably make him lieutenant colonel. And my artillery does have a brigade commander now, so that's quite good. Yes, so that's that. What's up next, you may ask? Well, I have some good news that my Paris chasseurs de cheval have arrived. Let's just move the camera back a little bit. So here they are. These guys will finish off my 3rd Cavalry Division, which of course is the only brigade of cavalry at Waterloo from 3rd Corps. Strangely though, the little pamphlet that's inside doesn't actually have is it the 9th? I think it's the 9th. I could be wrong. Hold on, I'll find out. Because literally I have that last, it's the 4th actually. So here we have, let me just grab this again. So this is actually the flag sheet from GMB for the 3rd Cavalry Division. And you can see that we've done the 4th, they had yellow facings, and they're part of 1st Brigade. Then we have the 9th, which are the ones that the Paris box will be turned into. They have pink facings. And then finally we have the 2nd Brigade, which is made out of one unit, and they've got the crimson red facings. Now the thing that I spotted in the Paris box was that you don't actually get options for a standard. And I kind of want to have a standard so I can obviously use my flag. Plus of course the other 3 have also got standards, so I kind of want them to sort of uniform together. So basically what I did was I basically went back to my old Victrix again, and I pulled out a spare standard bearer's arm. So I'm going to use one of those. So it means I don't have to sort of convert an arm. And it should be a pretty simple conversion, hopefully. So that's my next project. Now, obviously my cannons took me about a week to do, which was basically because I was kind of slowed down. My cat, who is actually at the moment sat over in the windowsill, there she is. She is basically sleeping in a little cubby hole in my sort of bookshelf where I generally keep my figures. And she's got this habit of, whenever I'm painting, to decide to come along and sit on my painting palette. Because basically for painting palettes I use, let me just actually try and find the actual, here we go. I use these things. They're basically like tear off palettes, and they're basically made up out of a sort of, I suppose it's like a sort of, almost like a sort of a waxed paper, but obviously the modern equivalent of that. And you just tear one off, and then generally I fold it in half, and it gives me a good, probably a good, here comes my cat again, a good length of time on each side, and I find it perfect. Like for instance, let's try and grab one. cat's sat on one of them. I can't find one that's used offhand, but basically I use them until they're filled up. But yeah, she's got this habit of coming along and sitting smack dab in the middle of one, or either walking straight across it, so which generally means walking through the paint. So I've had to be really careful about when I'm painting for when she sort of decides to jump up on the table or come out of her little cubby hole. And of course I have to either move the paint or basically stop painting, because she's basically sat right where I would normally keep my palette. So they did take me a little bit longer than normal. But yeah, I'm waffling. So look out for my next video. Obviously, because these guys are cavalry, they're going to take me a little bit more time. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to put in the mammoth painting sessions that I did on my hussars. So they might take me a little bit longer. It might be sort of a 2 week rather than 1 week. But like I say, you can never tell. Obviously my cat is still enjoying a little cubby hole, so that's going to definitely slow me down on painting. I was probably doing about, where I was doing like 6 hour sessions, I was probably doing about 4 hour sessions on these guys. And I think one day I didn't paint at all. So they probably they really should have took me about three days, 4 days maximum, but they ended up taking about 7, just because of being slowed down. But yeah, I'm happy with them. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you in my next, which, like I say, will hopefully be the completion of the 3rd Cavalry Division, which I'm going to be very happy about. But I actually picked up, now where is it? Oh, here we go. I actually picked up a Vallejo pink. I actually saw, I think it was in one of Leon T66's videos, he had done some Austrians, and some of them had pink facings, and I thought that pink looks the absolute business for the division that I was basically planning on doing. And he basically told me it was just bog standard Vallejo pink, so I ended up picking up one of those to get the correct sort of pink, because I haven't really got any pinks. It's not exactly a colour that you would generally use that often, especially when I was doing like bolt action and sort of saga stuff. But I'm pretty chuffed to have this. I mean, chances are I'll probably only get used for literally this division, but or this regiment rather. But yeah, so I'm glad to have got that, and that's, like I say, that's more or less it. I'll catch you all in the next. Catch you later.